நீங்க பண்றோம்.
இங்க என்னடா பார்த்துட்டு இருக்க? அந்த டிசைனை பார்க்குறியா? சொல்லு, சீக்கிரம் வந்து கேளு. ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ண முன்னாடி வா. என்ன
ஓபியம்னா தமிழ் என்ன?
அபின்.
சத்தமா பேசுறாங்க.
Okay, very good morning to everyone. I take immense pleasure in welcoming you all for yet another book review session. So today we're going to review a book called Opium Inc. We all know what opium is, right? Opium is kind of a narcotic substance. To be honest, it's kind of kind of a milky, gum-like substance, which is the raw material for making all those, heroin and other stuff. If we think that opium is something that related with the drugs or the medicine, that we are wrong. Opium is something more than that. The significance of opium is not just around the field of medicine or the drugs alone. It has a lot of significance, both in politically, economically, as well as in literature as well. So we have in English literature, we have a series of writers called opium writers. Okay? Either they were influenced by intake of opium, or they wrote some literature about opium as well. So this is the significance of opium in all the other sectors as well. Now there is, see, whenever we review any book, there is a meaning, or there is something behind that. Actually. Even though this book was chosen by the reviewer, but this book has significance even today. The reason why is, I'll tell you this. 2 months before, I was taking I was teaching an essay called Pain and Pleasure of Eating Opium, written by Thomas De Quincey. I was teaching it to a first year undergraduates. Okay, just imagine. Okay, they'll be around 16 or 17. So when I was starting to give an intro, I thought that students will not know anything, so I have to prepare for all those things. But the interesting thing is, students know more than me actually. They were able to give what opium is, what are the other things used with the opium, what are the byproducts of opium. They were also giving me name of some chocolates which was readily available, which has opium intake as well. I don't even remember the name of the chocolate actually. But they were able to tell all those things. Okay, so if a 16-year undergrad from 2022, we are almost in 2023, if they can know all those things without even teaching them, this is the significance of opium even today. It's not that it's a long gone thing. The significance is there even today. So this Opium in this kind of popular historical book. Okay, we have a story of how the Indian experience of this opium trade was there. So whenever we speak about opium, two major things were widely discussed. One is the European experience as well as the Chinese experience. The Indian experience of this opium trade or the history of opium making, something is not widely discussed. But this book is something that is discussed, which discusses all those things. So one is we have a very good reviewer. He's not a new person to us. We all know him. But for others, we have a very well experienced journalist, Babu Jaikumar sir. He's a journalist since 1986. He has worked for several news organizations like PTI, News Today, Times New Express, New Indian Express, and Deccan Chronicles, holding various positions and contributing to the publication field as well. He was born in Nagarkoil, the southernmost city of India. He came to Chennai to study journalism at prestigious Madras Christian College. After obtaining an MA degree from Scott Christian College, and stayed back in Chennai for other things. So he now lives in Chennai with his wife Gladys, who works in a public sector insurance company. I mean, company employee. And we have his son Roshan also over here, who is a legal professional as well. So with this, I invite the reviewer to proceed the session. Over to you.
Thank you. Okay. See now, when you look at this book, it just says the headline just says Opium Incorporated. This INC is incorporated. He wanted to know what incorporated. I mean, this INC means. You know, it's incorporated. But what has this got to do with this? What has opium got to do with an incorporation? Can anyone say that? And he gave a brief introduction about opium. And opium is banned throughout the world. It is an illegal. It is an illegal drug now, at least. And incorporated is a word that we use for incorporating a company, right? A legal entity. So how does this opium and incorporated got together here?
Maybe to say that opium in itself is like a company in itself. Although many companies started with the use of opium and trading opium, maybe it is an institution in itself.
Okay, you are somewhere near the thing, but the real issue is, the real point is, it was once upon a time. This book deals with an issue in which opium was run like an incorporated business, and that too by governments, and that too by the British, with the help of the British government. The company that ruled India, East India Company, was running it like a business, full-fledged business. So that is why this title has become apt for this book. And as you know, this book, the genre of this book is history, because it deals with a part of the human civilization in which different societies, different countries, different people who later on became big, whom some of the names which we know of, were indulging in a trade, in an illegal trade. Even at that time, it was not a legal trade. Actually, and the basic thing this book says is, as you may know if you have seen the thing, the Britishers grew opium here in India. They cultivated in various parts of India. They had their own thing, and then there were independent growers also in places like Malwa. All these were smuggled to China, and the entire country was ruined. In the sense, the people there became addicted to opium, and there was a huge demand, a growing demand, which was fed by the Britishers. They sent their ships, I mean, almost every day and all that. And this book actually deals with how, I mean, there were attempts by China to stop it, because it is their people who were losing their life, the career, everything. So how the British fought with them, resisted them. That is what is explained as a wars. Two opium wars were fought by the British against the Chinese. How they ravaged the ports. A lot of description is there in the book. How they ran through the countryside, how they fought with the peasants who tried to stop them. Everything is there. That is what this book deals with. But more than that, what comes very clearly from this book is man throughout human civilization has been greedy, like we see now. There has been no change in the. I mean, it was not it was not a better society then. And then how hypocrisy marked the character of most of the big people. the British, because here there are incidents about Christian missionaries who are supposed to go to China and preach evangelism, getting involved in the trade. The sense as they helped those companies, at least, even whether they went and sold them or not is not clear, but they were part of the companies. And at one point when China bans missionary work, these people went in the smuggling ships. They were part of the cargo of the smuggling ship. So they went to that extent. Some justified their act, saying, at the end of the day, we are able to preach the gospel there. So the end justifies them. I mean, so something like whatever they say. So that is one part of the hypocrisy. But as far as, because I mentioned this history, I must also say that towards the end, when Britain was able to move towards ban, there was a lot of support from the Christian community. That is also there at one end. But at the same time, Britain had to fight a big battle even to ban it, because nobody will support the ban. Everybody, whoever the MPs, there was a movement called, what is it? I forgot the name. It's a big name. Yeah, some sort or something like that. I'll just get you the name. Society for the Suppression of Opium Trade. It was formed in 1874 itself. It was formed in England, and a lot of MPs, the people, the nobles, and all were part of it. But at some point, they were all bought over by the opium lobby. Even the government, because as far as the British government was concerned, they looked at it from the financial point of view, profit, because opium trade brought them money, and a lot of money. And India was a big problem for at that time. India was a colony for which they were spending a lot of money. So how do you compensate that loss? By selling opium. And then from the China, China looked at it from a moral standpoint. For them, smuggling this drug into our country is morally wrong. It's an immoral act, they said. So they fought it that way. But for the British, it was only the financial gain. Actually, use of opium was prevalent in Britain also. There were a lot of, this was used. Even in India, it was used. And when the Britishers realized that by selling this opium in China and getting back tea, actually tea was a big issue there. I mean, this book doesn't deal much about that, but that was the thing. The Britishers got addicted to tea. This book also says something about that, how they got, how the Britishers got into.
Elite women started drinking tea as diet.
Yeah. See, now we have a king in England. What's his name? Who is the king of England? Charles III. Okay. It's Charles III. I mean, present king is Charles III. So there was a Charles II. There should have been a Charles II, no? It was that Charles II who married a Portuguese princess. And she was not one who would have got the throne or anything like that. She was a younger daughter, and he married her. And her name is some Catherine of Braganza, something like that, from Portuguese. She was the one who introduced tea to England. She was okay, and this happened long time ago. And after that, yeah, and after that, the Britishers got addicted to tea. The sense, like she said, it was a part of the life of the upper class, the elite class, like today's single malt whiskey or something like that. It was a very prestigious thing to drink tea at that time in those clubs and places like that. So they wanted tea. For that, they first got the tea from China, because at that time it was believed the tea will grow only in China. That's what they believed, and that led to subsequent haste of tea by the Britishers. It's not in this book. I'm just saying they stole tea from China, brought it to India, and they also stole a few laborers because they don't know how to make it. They have to cultivate tea here, and that is how we got our Nilgiris and places like that. They brought those people here, destroyed the forest. They were all forest at that time with tall trees and things like that. They destroyed the forest, planted the trees, tea plants on the slopes. They manufactured tea. But this is slightly, I mean, probably at the same time. At one end, they were trying to cultivate tea here and take it to England. But actually, tea was part of Assam. Tea was already there in Assam. Probably these people realized that only much later, and it grew well here in our climate also. Whatever. Coming back to the book, so because of that, because they wanted tea, they sold this opium there, and this book deals with actually it gives a lot of names about people involved in the drug trade, in the narcotics trade, because it was a very lucrative trade at that time. And so some of the names that this author mentions is, one is Jamsetji G.G. Boy. Anyone knows the person? No, not Tata. G.G. Boy. See, do you know J.J. School of Arts? That J.J. is this J.J. Okay. Today, J.J. School of Arts is a very prestigious institution, and they have also a J.J. hospital. Okay, in Bombay. They are seen as philanthropists, people with progressive ideas and all. And that J.J. Boy made his fortune through smuggling opium to China. Okay, that kind of information there. Then there is another person called Jordan and Matheson. There is a company, Jordan and Matheson. Those companies are still there. It's a holding company. Those people involved in business will know that. Even they did it. They got the money through opium. Then there is a Sassoon in Bombay. People in Bombay will be familiar with that name, Sassoon, Sassoon. Sassoon, they have hospitals in Bombay, Pune, so many places, and a lot of charitable institutions. They are also a respected family. They were actually Baghdadi Jews. They were in Bombay at that time, and they also got involved in this. Okay. Then many Banya communities in India were involved in that. Banya, there was a thing called Banya Mahajan, which represented that mercantile community. They also they actually went and spoke to the company people. When I say company, it means the East India Company that ruled India. That is actually a business house that was ruling us. They had a military force here. They were controlling everything, and they were influencing British policy. Whatever the policy wanted to Wo-
Sorry for that. Please sit on. So this is actually author's son. Oh, okay. Please sit on the desk.
So, so that is how and actually there were some of the things that this author brings out is it's about the when these people when the JJ hospital was built, they got it through they got help from the British government. British government in the sense the Indian government in the British government in India. And when the design for the hospital was made, there were some issues. The British will not allow this and all. Because they were very particular about issues like caste and discrimination. Okay, then at the end of it, when they built, they at least managed to get a separate kitchen for Brahmins. Okay, so even at that time, the amount of influence these people, these communities had over the government, they made the British government change the policy for that. And that is one thing that runs through the book, how British government's policies were influenced by these traders and through so many ways. If you read it, you will know. It comes from everywhere. Once a group of people, then at one point, the British government appoints a royal commission to look into the question of opium trade, whether it should be allowed to continue or it should be stopped. So there was by that time a big movement has come. A temperance movement has come, which were fully opposing it, and they were lobbying it. That their members were in the parliament and in top positions. But still, despite all these things, the Royal Commission at the end of it gave a reply. Gave a report saying, "Let it go, let it continue." Mainly because of the lobbying by the pro-trade groups. And kind of games they played in India, because part of the commission came to India to meet with people. They will meet addicts, people who are who lost their loved ones through this addiction, everything. But none of the things will be recorded properly. And they once at one point they got a letter from a medical community for 49 doctors signed that that letter and said we don't want this trade. It has to be stopped. Then what happened? That letter was presented to the British Parliament, the British government. The British government referred it to the Indian, their government here in India. So the cops immediately got activated. They went and knocked at the doors of all the 49 people. And in the end, only three people said, yes, we signed that letter. Everybody else said, some said, what is that letter? Some said, no, I was not aware of what it was. So, why I'm saying all these things is that the same tactics we may find even now. It may sound very familiar to you, which we see, but all these things were done by the British government. British government to ensure that poppy, poppy is the name of the plant which produces opium. So poppy continues to be cultivated here. So for that, they go to any extent. Then only three doctors said, so the whole thing falls through. That, when you go for an inquiry and when you say this letter is fake, so it goes off. So a lot of such things were done. Actually, at that time, when that commission came, farmers in Patna said, we are incurring loss because of the opium, because of poppy. We want some other crop to be grown in our fields. So the commission people asked, okay, why don't you do it? No, the government has said we must cultivate only poppy. So they were caught in a situation like that. See, there was an allegation about this biotech, what is it? BT crops.
Yeah.
BT crop people in Punjab, they were insisting on the farmers growing only their seeds and all that. That is a
Genetically modified.
genetically modified crop. Okay. That problem we heard a few years back. It had been there even at that time. They had said, even you farmers, and then the farmers were the most exploited lot. They were not given due wages. They were not given remunerative prices. Nothing. They got nothing. They were, and then the people who deal with the opium. It's actually a pod. I mean, you might be knowing something about cannabis, ganja, theriyumla, but ganja is different from this. It's opium. Ganja or weed, which many of you may have seen. Opium you might not have seen, but ganja you might have seen. That is a different plant actually. In this plant, there will be a pod that has to be opened with a blade, narrow blade. Then the thing scooped out and put it into some place. It's like that. That is how it's gathered. So what happened? Those people who work there, they use the blade to scoop. That will become dry. The thing will get dried up and it will stop. So they have to lick it. So they get addicted in the process. There are a lot of such professional hazards, a lot of things were there. Despite all that, the British government was very clear. And in China also, actually the government was looking the other way, though it was not legally allowed. So these people had their own ways of going into Japan. One port was there, Canton. Canton is the most popular, I mean, it's also a popular name in India now. Canton is a port to which all these smugglers land. And this book explains about how that area looks like a typical port-like, culture there with all the bars, prostitution, everything thriving in that area, because these people have to wait in the port for a long time. They have to take this thing out and bring the tea. So they wait for some time. They have to be engaged and entertained. So it was a thriving port known for its decadence, you can say. And that was the only port they had for a long time. And the government was actually looking the other way. It was not much concerned about the people's problem, which is addiction. Then one of the king's sons were found taking opium. After that, he woke up, started cracking the whip, and that led to the first opium war, and that crackdown.
Which king, sir? Chinese king?
Yeah, it's in China. My name must be there. These names are Chinese names are very difficult to remember.
I'm not asking about name.
He's a Chinese king. From the Qing dynasty. So he has a very, very complicated name. Maybe Diogong. He's a Diogong. Emperor. I think so. He is the one. Then, so when the British fleet arrives there, when they realize that, and he appoints a man. That king appoints a man called Lin Zexan. He is a mayor or commissioner, something like that in Canton. That fellow goes on a trip. He stops all ships, tells all these smugglers to leave the place. there was a big crackdown by him. That news goes to London.
England.
England, exactly. It goes to England, and the English fleet arrives in a port called Sochon. It comes in another port. When the fleet arrives, fleet means there must have been a lot of ships, not one. When the fleet arrives, the people they're thought smugglers are arriving because they are used to smugglers so much. All this was so now they are, abandoning Canton, they are now they are using this also. But they landed there and started shooting and entering the place, barging in, killing people and all that. And that is how that was the beginning of the first war, Opium War.
That is from the England.
China, England and China.
Yes.
Then what happened at that time? That act of England to go for a war with China, because that country is stopping smuggling is the entire world community goes in support of England. Even the US President John Quincy Adams was very proud of that. He says, just as Britain has led the war on the abolition of slavery, it seems it was England who led the war against slavery earlier. Like that, now we have done another thing. What is that? To have free trade. They called it free trade. Okay, dumping China with opium was free trade for them. Okay, then there were a lot of such things, because many of these top countries, they will not allow the growth of growing opium in their country. But for the British also, you can't grow there. But they had a colony, a huge colony with a lot of hilly terrain, all kinds of terrain, whatever terrain you want, it is there. So you grow the thing there, and you sell it and make the money, and the money goes to England. It doesn't help India in any way. That was the trade at that time. That's why he calls it an incorporated thing. It's a business thing where 1% the employees are exploited by a owner. How the profits are diverted elsewhere. It works like that. That machinery, the entire smuggling machinery works like that. There are so many people involved in that. Government at one side, policies help them. So that way it went on. And then China also, there was some opposition within China. There was a rebellion in a place called Taiping. It was led by a man called Hong Xiquan, and he called himself the brother of Jesus Christ. And so he was spearheading a movement there against opium. It was actually a theocratic movement. It was a theocratic movement, and the whole thing was directed against the king, the dynasty. It's a Qing dynasty. And then when the Second War started, that closed with that. They came for an agreement. Let's see how the first war went. They came for an agreement. China had to go, otherwise they will devastate the country, they threatened, and China went for an agreement, and it said you can bring the stuff, we can bring opium through 4 or 5 more ports. More ports were opened for them. You can bring them here, and because now they were not protesting in Canton earlier. Only through Canton they could come. Now more ports were. It was sort of liberalized, And they also used terms like rights of the people to consume. Those things were also there. The campaigners were, when you speak at parliament, they speak like that. We have to ensure the Chinese people got what they want and all that. So, then after some time, again China China tried to stop them. The second war starts. It was in that war a guy called Felicio Beato. That war has more records because they had a photographer with them. The British Army had a photographer. He's an Italian, I think, Felici Beato. He came here and took images. He was also in India before that to take images of the people who died, who laid down their lives in the first war of independence. That is the Sepoy Mutiny. In Sepoy Mutiny also, a lot of people were killed by the British Army. Those pictures were first taken by him, by a man called Felici Beato. The British soldiers called him Sinner Beato. Senior is a term. Senior. That is how that Mister for Italian. That was in 1860 when he came to India, and then in this also the second war with China also he was there. He took a lot of pictures, and his pictures normally are or after the devastation is done. Like a lot of dead people, damaged properties, all those things he took, and that was actually called the unacknowledged World War. Many people called it because the French were there with them. The French supported them. Then the British and the French together went for a treaty with the Chinese. At that time, USA and Russia joined them. So it was like the superpowers of the world joining together to suppress China. Yeah, that was the situation. So anyway, they signed a treaty at the palace of the Chinese king. Once the treaty was signed, and at that time they got a lot of concessions. You can do whatever here. You can bring your opium here and do whatever you want to do with that. That kind of a free trade thing there. Once that treaty was signed, the British people, those who came with the leaders to sign the thing, they ransacked the palace, looted it, took all the things, and they also say, it's called, what is the Opium Palace. In that palace, they took everything, and then he said the photographer also was given some of the stolen things. He also told. Why I'm saying this, they were all together. It was not like, independently he came and photographed. He traveled with the British soldiers. Like, now we have these embedded journalists traveling with troops, and it was not like that. He didn't come on his own to record the devastation or the fight. Yeah, it was at that time, the 19th centuries, that the missionaries were using. I think I told you that they were using the ships to reach China because China didn't allow them otherwise. It was throwing them out. So they went through that. And so when you go with the smuggling ships, you will be supportive of the smugglers only. So they also supported that. Then the same Britishers the same missionaries realized that opium is the greatest barrier to the introduction of Christianity. It was when you work with the drug addicts and the opium addicts, you are not able to tell them about Christ properly. They don't understand. So they also found that, but still they were in league with the smugglers. Then there is another interesting thing, and as far as the Chinese man is concerned, an average Chinese man is concerned, he couldn't differentiate between a white drug peddler and a white missionary. For him, all you fellows are white. so long you sold us drugs, and now you are coming and telling us something. So at that time, in the end of the 19th century, a term came up. It's called Jesus opium. That was a cure these missionaries had for drug addicts. But that was also based on the same drug. It doesn't take you fully away from there, but gives you some kind of a relief, not the core opium that you use. And then okay, then when the opposition to the opium trade reflects in England. In England also, there's a big lobby that goes against this thing. And there's another big lobby that wants the trade, because the drug is not coming to our place. We are only getting the money. Otherwise, there was always a fear of people being taxed. They were told, if this money stops, the money that comes from the opium trade stops, the government will extract the money from you through tax. So they were all, they said, okay, then you carry on with the thing. Okay. Then they realized, at that time they went on this thing from there. When they did some investigations, the British in their country, where it was in use. They were using opium for a lot of things, medical purposes. Mainly, it is seen as a medical purpose. I mean, even now it is seen as a medical thing only. Now where all opium is cultivated, there are 6 countries where they can be cultivated. Only 6 or 7 countries, and India is one of them. In India, even now, opium is cultivated. Even now, it's cultivated. 7 countries. 7 countries. That was according to a protocol, an opium protocol that was signed in 1953. That was once most of the countries fully banished opium. Then some people said that we need the thing anyway. We need opium for certain purposes. So it was allowed in some countries. One of the countries is India. India, it is now allowed, and this must have happened after independence, after the British left. The Indian government allowed, but it is a highly regulated cultivation. Very difficult to get. Actually, what they say is, what they claim is, not even one pot goes out of the thing. Everything is accounted for. You have to give the accounts, how many plants you have, how many acres you have. But you know about India, where there is a nexus, nexus between the cultivator, politician, and the drug smuggler. So a lot of things leaks out. But most of the things are properly exported to places like England and things like that, where they need. So it is still there, and in between 1850 and 1860, the British brought a lot of series of laws to regulate the British pharmaceutical industry in the use of opium. So don't use opium for everything unless it's very important. They brought in a lot of regulations, because before that, the Britishers were using opium for everything. Whether you have a headache, a toothache, or whatever, any ache, some opium-based drug will be given. And in the book, he says, when the East India people came here, those people, those women, men, and all came, they all had in their bags some kind of drug or syrup or concoction that will have opium in it. They were using it. So because of that, he wanted to stop this. He wanted to, the government wanted to stop this. Because in the book he says, in England, everything was sold across the counter, even poison. You can buy from, give the money and buy it. At that time, then they brought in the restrictions. And that was also the time when the first theories of addiction came. It is here because at that time it was seen, in those days, if you are an addict, you are seen as someone who has failed morally. It's a sign of a moral failing. But do you know what where addiction is classified now? Any idea? Any kind of addiction. When you say addiction, any idea? That is important. Many people don't know. It is seen as a disease. Now that is the medical standpoint. Psychological is within that. One part. It's not purely psychological. Psychological can be a moral failing also. It's not purely this thing. It is a disease. So it has to be treated. That changed the view you look at an addict, look at the entire problem of addiction. Yes. So, and also science gave through a lot of information about addiction, how the thing works in your body. All those things were researched. A lot of research papers came out. So people had an understanding. Before that, they didn't know anything. They got opium, they had it, they were happy. That's all. But now, a lot of things came up, and so these things were presented to the government, parliament, and said, see, this has such deleterious effect on human body and mind, so it has to be stopped, and all those things. Because they were trying to say it's free trade, freedom. Now that has to be changed. People cannot be allowed to take that. So the whole perception was slowly changing, and only because of that, these laws were possible. And it was at that time that Society for the Suppression of Opium Trade also got strong, and they were supported from a group called the Quakers. They were a semi-missionary type of group. And but in India at that time, there was a thing called the Bengal Native Chamber of Commerce. Then there was a British India Association. These are the industry lobby groups that nowadays they all operate in different names like NASCOM, FICCI, and all that. Their predecessors, they were all supporting the trade. That is because their members were into it. One of their members will be there in there. So if you take it in the general body, some fellow will say, no, why should you stop it? So all the groups supported it. And this British, Indian Association, when they deposed before the Royal Commission, they said, opium has a divine origin. They gave an aura of divinity to that. Like we do with a lot of things in India now. And it's God's thing. And they said stopping this will bring a lot of misery, and distress, so better don't do it. Hmm? And at that time also, like we do now, like many false theories were floated, saying, no, it doesn't have any bad effect on people. I know people who take drugs and they're very happy. Hmm? All those things didn't allow the government, or rather the government itself was supporting that. Oh, why I'm mentioning this is a kind of a parallel that we can draw today. For a lot of retrograde things, there are supporters among the public who will say, yeah, that is how it should be. What is the priority for the government? A lot of people will give a suggestion, which may not be the real good thing for everyone. Hmm? That way also there were groups functioning there, and most of them were Indians, educated Indians. Hmm? I think you all know about Nauroji. There was a man called, you might have all heard about him, you know, Dadabhai Nauroji. He has some connection with the trade. For us, he was the first first Britisher to be elected to the, first Indian to be elected to the British Parliament. Huh?
No, Dadabhai Naraji was not. He was a Parsi, but he was part of others.
Yeah, but he was.
Yeah.
Cricket.
He was more a Britisher than an Indian. That's a different thing. But he was also here. We hail him as a great man, but he was not. I mean, opposing the trade, the opium trade in Parliament. Though he was a member, he was in fact a supporter.
He was also the founder of the INC, one of the founders. AOQ, Dadabhai Naraji, and somebody else.
And because you mentioned the INC for a long time didn't say anything about this on this opinion. The Royal Commission was coming here. They stayed here for 3 months or something. They went around taking opinion. So many people. The Indian National Congress will not speak. They were, because they didn't know what to do. Then finally, it was Mahatma Gandhi who spoke. Mahatma Gandhi was against this temperance, and you might all know about a man called C.F. Andrews. C.F. Andrews was vehemently against it. He came here as a priest who came here as a principal of St. Stephen's College, and he was very close to Mahatma Gandhi. He also opposed it. He was one of the few Britishers who took a firm stand against it and took the whole thing forward. That ended in the ban. And but the ban, I mean, it was not. We can't credit the British alone for the final ban. The final ban came because of the Geneva Convention. That happened, I mean, later on. In between, another exploitation was, okay, this is an interesting thing. When the problem was raging, newspapers also, in English, newspapers also wrote in favor of opium. So one gem that our Hindu paper wrote to us, opium may be a great evil, but national bankruptcy is a greater evil. Okay, so I mean, there were other papers who also wrote. I'm not blaming you. I mean, I'm not singling out the Hindu, because you all read the Hindu, so I just wanted to. Then another thing that they were doing here is, at that time, these plantation workers, whether it's tea plantation, any other plantation, they were given opium by the management. That was one way of exploiting them, so that they won't protest, they won't agitate, they won't ask for more wages, and they will do the work properly, it seems. It was part of a management plan to give them and they were charged. It was not free. That money will be deducted from their daily wages, but they will be given that. So they were also made addicts, and that became very this thing in Assam tea gardens. In Assam tea gardens. So the government, the matter went to the government, the Assam government, which was a British government anyway. But that said, no, this is not the thing. So they say the entire colonial Assam was built on an abuse and the exploitation of plantation workers. And according to this author, it's still that today. I mean, I have not seen that. So then the other one I said, tea was anyway naturally going there. And another point that they say that he mentions is these people, the workers and others who are provided opium and made to thrive on that, they get addicted, so they come back to the company, they don't go away. Is that they lose everything. It says they become effeminate. That is a word he uses. I don't know exactly what exactly he means by that. Then another person who opposed among the Indian leaders was Rabindranath Tagore. Though his family at the previous point of time have been part of the trade, but he opposed it. Then I said the Britishers said then Japan's policy. Japan was also supporting growth of things. I mean, he actually. I mean, after a point of time, the book goes into the entire world thing. These are the main things with the Indian history, related to the Indian history. Then the book gives a lot of has a lot of information about English literature. He seems to be, I think there will be English literature students. We have all read about Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Heard about that? Heard about him. That one big castle and all he imagines, and then says all under the influence of opium. And he said that I can't. He didn't finish it. He said I can't recall it now. Then that entire group of romantic poets, they were all into it. He gives all those details about it, and he also gives what is the position now. And he also brings in the prohibition policy of India, that which includes alcohol, and what is the directive principles of the Constitution. I mean, it is from that that prohibition comes. He gives all those details. It's a comprehensive book. So anyone who is interested in knowing anything about addiction, anything, you can read the book. At the same time, it gives a lot of insight into world history, because a lot of things even I learned only from here. The various things that unfolded at different venues at the same time, all those things are well recorded here, and it's well written also. And he's a very young man. He must be 31 or something. He's from Chennai. He's from Madaya. He was his junior in school. Okay.
Thank you so much. 1 minute. Thank you so much, and really appreciate Babu Jaikumar. It's your usual style. You brought out the best part of this book. Everybody can ask questions, but only request is, this also goes on live. So you please raise your hand. I'll pass it on this to you so that you have to hold it and talk. So can I start with the first question?
I want to just say something about the title.
Yeah,
right?
please.
Something interesting about the title. All right. I think nobody's realized something about this title, right? Because I'm a lawyer, I realized it. It says Opium Incorporated, right? Incorporated is a description for a company. It's a suffix for a company. but has nothing. But it's not British. It's actually American.
American.
Okay, incorporated is American. It is for American companies. In Britain, it should be ideally PLC or private or limited company. What I think that the authors inspired by this Opium Incorporated, he was inspired was there was in the 1930s, 20s, 30s, there was this company called Murder Incorporated. It was started by a gangster in the US called Lucky Luciano. It was an actual company called that, Murder Incorporated, wherein like how you hand out software and manufacturing services, murder, drug smuggling, extortion, recovery of money, and all that was you could get those services done by those people. There was a central mafia. He will assign the local don in this thing. So I think Opium Incorporated is built on that kind of a premise, wherein opium was turned into a trade like that, in a kind of company like that. And one more thing was interesting. This thing was when they said that Assam, all right, Assam, there was always tea there in Assam. I think one part, I think I'm wondering whether the author put that. I haven't read the book. So actually, Assam, how tea, I have a feeling when there was, because Assam was ruled by the Ahom dynasty, which is originally from China. And there are many people, like many famous Assamese, even including the former chief minister Ranjan Gogoi, Tarun Gogoi, and the former chief justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, are all from there. So Ahom dynasty always had an affinity for tea, right? And it was kept as their private property. So I'm wondering whether that was one of the reasons,
but
and probably that is how the British knew that you could grow tea here also.
No, the British, when they started, they didn't know. When they stole it and came, they didn't know. They found this later on. The tea is already growing in Assam.
Yeah, that's right. So because that was their private property, would have been their private property, the dynasty's private property. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, sir. My question is, can this book be given to school libraries?
Yeah,
Because children up to 12 standard.
So no, even he likes it.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of, he gave me a lot of.
When you said drugs and all that.
No, that is no. There has to be an awareness about it. This doesn't glorify drugs.
Okay.
This doesn't glorify. In no way it doesn't glorify. It is not a book that will promote any sort of decadence. No, there's no such thing. But for children, I mean, very small children, it may be some difficulty in understanding the entire thing, because it talks about world history. You have to know. So you have to have some idea about China, Chinese dynasties, and things like that. Even smuggling, you have to have some idea. What is smuggling? I mean, you take something illegally. When that country stops the import of a certain product, and when you take it there, it is smuggling. Those things children may not know, but for children above the age of 16, I will recommend this.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a question to you. Even for that matter, cigarette or liquor is more dangerous to health, and it is no helps in, doesn't have any medicinal values. But today, by and large, society accepts it. I also feel that at that point of time, the perception of the society would be that it's more of medicinal values. Whether one takes it as an addictive or not is in your hand. I mean, it could be that reason why even the newspaper, some of the big names you said here.
No, they were. It was not like that. It was not like that. They didn't think that it is a great thing. It's a good thing to do. They only did it because I mentioned that for them it's only money.
Yes.
However, money comes, it's okay. And why they stopped in their country then? They banned it in their country. They are dumping it in China. So they know there are a lot of ill effects. But whenever, like you now said, those people who support the free trade of opium to other countries will quote alcohol. That is also bad. That also gives you a high. They will say those things. They will say those things.
I'm not advocating any of this.
No. I'm saying that. Yeah. No. I mean, because you mentioned alcohol and all that. They were saying that. They were raising the same questions. But actually, science has found that alcohol and opium are not the same. See, we have a lot of things, different types of poisons. It's not, I mean, everything cannot be classified as the same. Like a cobra and a rattlesnake are not the same. So it is like that.
Final question. I mean, anybody is interested, please say, sir. Before that, yes, I'll come back to you a little later. Yes, sir.
Good morning. First, thank you very much for your very detailed presentation. Now, the question is that in India, first the British started direct trade with China in the opium. And later on, when they found it difficult, it was actually the Gujaratis, the Parsis, which include the Tatas also, were involved in this. And subsequently, many of them gave it away. But then with regard to the question of, whether opium is good or bad, in small doses, it's not so bad, right? And we have morphine, which is actually a great painkiller. And you could not have done surgery in those days without that. Of course, one can get addicted to it, and that's the problem with any kind of addiction. So also, of course, we have, as you said, today, if the Hindu quoted those times that opium is bad, it can cause a loss, and you don't have it, then you can have a bankruptcy. So too is today's Tamil Nadu government.
Yeah.
You don't have liquor, the government will collapse.
No. At one point of time, what I found, I mean, I said that.
You said that. I'm trying to parallel to what you said.
Lot of these things will resonate. You'll have a sense of deja vu when you read this book. Okay, I've seen this here. Okay, it is like that.
When I was in my teenage, I found that only one or two in my entire colony would drink. Today, drinking is not at all considered bad at home by women also. So, as a society, we have changed totally.
No,
good or bad, that's a different story.
No, for this also you said, I mean, the same thing applies here, because as far as the government is concerned, it's only the revenue. Only the revenue, nothing else. I'm not going into the other part of it, moral part, whether alcohol is same as not that. It is causing some devastation among some communities, some people, young people. But for the government, it's the revenue. That is it.
It is true that in some of those advanced societies, I don't want to name the countries, now they're slowly relaxing this in their very many states. They say that it's no longer illegal.
No, now.
But the question is, they also say that they use it deliberately because to wipe out some of those people. Right, the racism is still persists in a different form, and they encourage them. If you go to any countries, the downtowns at the side is where it is plentifully available, and they tell us that don't go that side after 8 o'clock. You never seen that in any Indian cities. Delhi, you don't go this side after 8 o'clock, 8:30. In Chennai, even at 11 o'clock, you can catch a train and come. But big countries, they claim to be more democratic than us. They say after 8:30, avoid going in subways, paths, and other things. Is there any mentioning of that, or with your experience?
That is true. No, that is not exactly mentioned here. But when the whole war was going on, as I said, the Britishers didn't want the thing to be dumped in their country, but in China. That itself is the racism that you are saying. They were not bothered about the Chinese youth. They were concerned about the British youth. But the story here is how an establishment, a government, an East India Company, which was running India, used these people to run their trade without any qualms. That is a point. That is why it makes it important. And the laws in China, because of the overuse of this thing, overdosing, was extensive. The British knew that.
Sir, last year I read an article regarding that opium trade related article in the Hindu, where it is mentioned that the Parsis and Banyas were the one trading communities.
No, I told you, no?
benefited most out of
Yeah,
it?
yeah. No, that is one thing there. See, today, if you see, Bombay is a prosperous place. Bihar is a poor state, and these opium was cultivated in Bihar, that side also, and Bombay also. Two different trades. That is explained here. It comes from through different channels. The Bihar one was fully under the control of the British. That is what I said. The potato farmers were asked to not cultivate that and all that. Whereas in Bombay, the port, Bombay port was given as a gift to India. I mean, to the East India, to England, and England gave it to the East India Company. It was a gift through Bombay port. That is there. That is one point. That is where Bombay prospered. Bombay charged heavy, I mean, excise duty from those people who were taking it away. So they became rich. Bihar became poor because Bihar, it was the farmers who suffered. So that is true. What you are saying is true. I gave you some names. JJ. They are all passes. All the rich people, all the educated people, the affluent class of that time, they were with the British. They backed the British. They have said they were for free trade. That's it.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Really, it was good, and I enjoyed the entire picture how you have presented the last 100 years of the history. Just actually until 1813, Charter Act of 1813, British were allowed it. The monopoly of East India Company was with them. Then after 1813, they said that you don't have any power. We will allow other competitors to do trade with India, and only one monopoly they retained until 1833, tea trade. And through your narration, it means the book which says, I thought that because Opium War is 1845, 46 first one, then 48, 49 second. My understanding before hearing you, I thought that British haven't allowed. It means British were not aware about the cultivation of opium. Actually, what they cultivated in India, the opium, what East India Company cultivated without the knowledge of Britain. That's what my understanding. Without the knowledge of Britain.
Yeah, you have a point. See, that if you want to interpret it that way, you can
No, just I am getting clarity. Whether I want to get some more clarity in the sense whether that book, you can see British, what they believe. That is correct point. You mentioned that they haven't allowed it. It means that trade is illegal to Britain. That's sure. That point I'm subscribing that point. Only one doubt I have, whether British aware, the politicians and the people who are in the parliament, whether they knew that okay this is happening, or otherwise only we are saying about the profit, right? British, when East India Company is giving money to them, the government, the exchequer of the government, they won't say that we will get the money from these sources.
Okay,
so
I'll ask you a question.
And one more thing, sir. Just you spoke about the Quakers, right?
Quakers.
But because I haven't noted that point, because it is too interesting how religion look at this concept, because religion is to speak about the moral perspective. We can say these things in the perspective of politics and the power, that is different. The political economy is different, but moral is different. But when you spoke about the Christianity, how things, it is something new for me, totally new for me. Just the Quakers, how they handle it, that alone I want.
No, the Quakers' role was when the move to ban it, when that Royal Commission and all was formed, and after when the British government was closely going towards moving, because in this book he clearly says one generation, when it goes out, dies and go, the next generation comes with a new perspective. They realize that this is bad, and a lot of things happen at the same time. I mentioned that science gave you a lot of information, because what your grandfather didn't know, that he may be a good man, but he thought this is not very harmful, and so must allow. Now the grandson reads this. No, this cannot be allowed. You will take. when it was going like that, when that new thing, among the people who supported the temperance movement were the Quakers. It doesn't give more about them. The other thing, I said they will one day go with in that ship, and then they will say Christianity is now, we are not able to preach Christianity like that. And your first question was what is that? I forgot. Whether the parliament knew or. See, when the Royal Commission was appointed, if the it was appointed by the parliament, why did they send a group to India? Go and meet the cultivators, they knew. They knew. Probably when it started, they might not have known. When they started, they might not have known. One or two ships going there, they might not have known. But they always had the representatives. They knew who was protesting in India, who are the people who are part of the independence movement. So they must also know what their people are doing, their company is doing. And why did they one day said told the company to shut down? So obviously they knew. See, it is not going to be recorded anywhere. Some MP is going to praise the East India Company for growing poppy in India. Such records will not be there. Obviously, they would know. I mean, that is my. Yeah.
Thank you for your review. It was nice. I really enjoyed it. I haven't read the book, but I just have. When you were talking about free trade, there was this question that popped up, which is we've heard of right now wars are being fought for oil trade, and we know about United Fruit, and when that was taken off, how America brought her warships in. So, can we compare what is given in this book about opium trade, and the kind of imperial, colonial things that happen with that? Can we compare that with all of these things, or is it something of a new?
No. It's the same.
It's of the same class.
Basically, it's the same. Basically, it's the same. You use democracy for these kind of things. Concepts like free trade and like in many places, that is the thing. That is the same thing. Same idea. That man thought in the context of opium. Today, there are bigger things like oil, so many other things. Electricity, electric cars. Why electric cars didn't become popular for so long. A lot of such questions. All the same.
I think we have come to the end of this day's program. Very, very enlightening on a Sunday morning. But the formal vote of thanks would come soon. And now request my good friend Madan to felicitate our speaker for this day. Please.
Thank you.
Adore him with a shawl.
Thank you, sir.
A warm morning to all of you present here. So at the outset, I'd like to thank Oli sir for making this event happening continuously, week after week, all the Sundays. So whenever we sit for discussions about the upcoming meetings, sir would always say, we should get people addicted with this meeting. Yes. So we are actually in a way to, getting in people getting addicted to book reading and discussing about it. So yes, reading. Maybe we can even have it as a theme. So thank you, sir, for processing this idea and making it happen. Next, I would like to thank today's reviewer, Babu Jaikumar sir, political editor, Deccan Chronicle. But for sir, we would not have known about this book. We all, as avid book readers, book lovers, we all have come across, many books, familiar books we all know. But then, even when I happened to see the cover of the book, I got very much excited, and I was literally waiting for this day to come. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for choosing this book for the review. This book, in a way, is a kind of a historical treasure trove, I would say, because it has a lot of historical facts underpinning inside. So thank you so for bringing in each and every detail of the book, and really inspiring us to get deep delve into this book. Actually, many of us, after this review, would I think we will get this book and we will read this and give our reviews too. So thanks for choosing this book, and also thanks for giving us an overall picture of the book. Next, I would like to thank Roshan for taking some time off and for being with us. He's the author's son. So thanks for gracing this occasion. Thank you, Roshan. And I would also like to
actually, this book was presented to me by him.
Actually, we have to
For my
thank
birthday, for my
மகன் தந்தைக்கு ஆற்றும் உதவி ஒரு நல்ல புத்தகத்தை கொடுத்து படிங்கன்ற மாதிரி. Of course, we have to thank these two wonderful I don't know whether to say ladies or overgrown girls, both Kriba and Joyce, and also Prem for doing this event week after week. So without their support, I don't think would be here. So I suggest that you also get nothing wrong getting addicted to certain things. That's and definitely you should get to this. To say about Babu Jaikumar, I think both Joyce and though this guy used this book to read out, but doesn't say. He wrote about Periyar. Periyar is, undisputedly a leader of the last century. And in a journalist perspective, that's why we brought out this book. Beautifully written. One of the finest book, at one point of time a bestseller in the country. So a lot of people from different parts of the country also showed keen interest to buy this book. So I wanted to mention that he's also author of this book. So very glad that you're present this morning. Thank you very much.
So last but not the least, I would like to thank each and every participant of today's program. Especially a special word of thanks to Professor Biju from Loyola College. He's working with the history department, and Professor Akilan. They have also brought some students with them. So thank you. And Madan sir, who is actually the star member of our club. So thank you, each one of you. And special word of mention to Tillai sir. So he has come all the way from Velo to attend this meeting. She is an active member in the group Varangal Padipom. And when we usually invite for each week, we invite one person from Varangal Padipom and Padipom group. So this week, sir has consented to come. And last month, he has released 3 books amidst, Ma Subramaniam sir. So he is one such asset in our group. So thanks for coming, sir. Thank you. So with this, I wind up my vote of thanks. I also, request you to come regularly for the upcoming meetings. Thank you.
That is important. The last sentence is important.